The message from the stars, in the year 4141. Earth was quiet. For many years, there had been peace between the Terran Union and the Valoran people, an alien race, known for their kindness and deep connection to nature. The Valoran had no large armies, no war fleets. They didn't need them. They trusted Earth, and Earth protected them. The Valoran and humans had become more than allies. They had become family. Children from both species learned together. Traders, shared food and culture. One of Earth's greatest honors was being called the Valoran Guardian. But everything changed at 3:14. Terran Standard Time, a signal, came from deep space. It was short, broken, static-filled, but it was real. The message was just one sentence. The Council came. They burned everything. Then silence. The signal came from Valora, their homeworld. But Valora hadn't spoken to Earth in 3 days. That was already strange. Now, the worst fear had come true. Commander Lian of Earth's Deep Space Network stared at the message. Her hands shook as she played it again. She had heard many distress calls before, but this was different. This wasn't a request for help. It was a final whisper. Within an hour, Earth launched a scout ship, the TDS Hawk. It was fast, silent, and unarmed. Its job was only to observe, record, and return. The journey took less than 12 hours using jump drives. The Hawk entered the Valoran system at 15:45. The crew expected answers. What they found was ash. Valora was destroyed. The forests, oceans, and glowing crystal cities were all gone. The green lights that once danced across the skies had vanished. What was left behind looked like black sand and cracked stone. There were no buildings, no signals, no air traffic. Nothing lived. The Hawks team scanned the surface. Radiation levels were high. Fire had swept across the atmosphere. It wasn't a natural disaster. It was an attack. The only sign of life was a small hill, where a silver object reflected the sun. The landing team approached. As they got closer, they realized it was a Valoran child, frozen, wrapped in a small survival shield that had failed. The child was clutching something, an old human-made toy, a stuffed animal, one of the kind given to children on Earth and Valora alike. Burn marks surrounded the body, but the child had been trying to run. One of the crew members fell to their knees. The others stood in silence. This wasn't war, it was murder. At 1812, the Hawk returned to Terran space with its report. The images were shown directly to the Terran High Council. When Earth saw what had happened, there was no debate, no vote, no long speech. Only 4 words were spoken by General Ray during the emergency broadcast. Activate Terran War Command. That same night, lights turned on across Earth's hidden defense grid. AI minds awoke from hibernation. Deep space railguns were recalibrated. Old ships once locked away in the moon's shadow were reactivated. And above Mars, something bigger moved, a black warship the size of a city, the TD's Revenant. It had been sleeping for years. Now it opened its engines like wings across the colonies. Humans stood still as the news spread. Some wept, some screamed, some simply clenched their fists. People didn't ask why it happened. They only asked who did it, and the answer came fast. The Galactic Council sent a message just 2 hours later. It was cold, short, and full of false words. The incident at Valora was a local rebellion. The Valoran refused to comply with new regulations. Their destruction was unfortunate. Earth didn't reply. Instead, Earth's voice disappeared. From all open channels, trade signals went silent. Diplomats vanished from foreign stations. Ships changed routes. The galaxy waited for a response. It didn't take long. At 4 o'clock the next morning, Earth's encryption net activated Protocol 7 War. Silence. Only one message was sent across Terran territory. They killed the Valoran. We will speak through fire. Silence before the storm. Earth said nothing. After the report from the TDS Hawk returned, no public statement was made. No warning, no threats, no demands. The Terran Union simply went silent, and the galaxy began to worry. On the surface, everything seemed calm. Earth's trade networks paused. Civilian transport was grounded. Mining colonies went dark. But those who had studied Terran history understood one thing. When Earth stops talking, something dangerous is coming. The Council dismissed the silence at first. They called it typical human emotion. Some even joked on news channels that Earth would send a strongly worded letter. The Council's main speaker, Lord Elveron, publicly stated, "Humanity has always relied on drama. They will calm down. There will be no war." He was wrong. Inside Earth's high orbit command, every satellite, drone, and deep space telescope was redirected toward one goal: revenge. The TDS Revenant, Earth's most feared dreadnought, had not moved in 20 years. Built in secret during the Cyber Rebellion, it had only fired its weapons once in history. After the Valoran massacre, the Revenant powered up again at 6:20. The ship's engines roared for the first time in 2 decades. Every Terran station across the solar system watched in awe as the black warship rose over Mars like a shadow swallowing the red sky. From the military shipyards above Titan, new ships were launched fast, silent destroyers with cloaking drives and black hulls that absorbed light. Every ship carried the same mark painted in silver: the Valoran spiral, the symbol of Earth's lost friends, back on Earth. Factories worked without rest. AI-managed forges built new weapons every 3 minutes. Old war programs were reloaded into tactical systems. Long-range railguns were positioned near asteroid fields. All of this happened without a single public broadcast. Even civilian stations had been muted. The people didn't protest. They didn't panic. They understood the silence was not fear, it was focus. Meanwhile, the Council grew uncomfortable. Their trade ships reported Terran patrols in neutral zones. Unknown signals moved near their outer colonies. Smaller Council races, those who had once trusted Earth, now asked questions. Why aren't the humans speaking? Why is Earth recalling all its fleets? Why do their ships carry Valoran markings? The Council tried to hide the truth. They blamed the Valoran. They erased reports. They lied. But then, something changed. At 9:45 Galactic time, the Council's internal communication network was breached. One of their secure satellites displayed a simple message across all screens. You burned the innocent. You silenced our friends. Now we silence you. No logo, no name. But everyone knew Earth had spoken at 10:12. A small Terran vessel entered orbit above Iravon 6, a minor Council world known for trade and ship repairs. It didn't attack. It simply dropped a pod to the surface. Inside that pod was a black box. The box contained a single recording. It was the voice of a Valoran child, crying. It ended with static, followed by Earth's message: "We do not seek peace. We seek memory, and you will remember what you did." The Council finally realized Earth had already made its decision. and it would not stop. Back on the TDS Revenant, Admiral Selen stood in the central command chamber. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "The galaxy thinks we're angry," he said to his officers. "They're wrong." He turned to the digital star map showing council worlds. "We're not angry, we're focused. And when humanity focuses, planets fall." Behind him, the AI war program LYNX activated. "Target prioritization complete," the AI reported. Phase 1 ready. Phase 1 was not about full war. It was about examples. Earth would strike where it hurt: communication centers, energy, hubs, command relays. But they wouldn't destroy everything. Not yet. They would let the Council feel the fear first. At 11 o'clock, fleets departed from secret Terran, bases hidden beyond Jupiter's orbit. No music played, no cheers followed. Just the quiet rumble of engines and the glow of stars passing by. Every pilot carried a hologram inside their ship. A final message recorded by Valoran citizens before the massacre. They listened in silence. Not for motivation, but for remembrance. Because this war was not about conquest, it was about justice, delivered with steel and flame. And in the silence that followed, the galaxy began to understand. Earth had not gone quiet. It had started counting. Down. First strike on Zarnok, Primat 312, Galactic Central Time. The skies above Zarnok Prime were calm. It was a busy world, one of the Galactic Council's strongest industrial planets. Zarnok Prime produced weapons, armor, and fuel for nearly a dozen nearby systems. The people there believed the war would never touch them. They believed Earth was still thinking. They were wrong by 313. That calm turned into chaos, without any warning. The stars around Zarnok Prime blinked out, hidden by something massive. An object appeared above the planet. No registration codes. No hail. No warning lights. It was invisible to most sensors. It was Earth's shadow fleet. 6 ships, cloaked and silent, had been waiting inside the system for over 12 hours. They had mapped every defense cannon, every orbital turret, and every escape route. They knew when Zarnak's guards changed shifts. They knew when comms were weakest, and now they struck. The first target was orbital station for Bia, communication relay that connected the Zarnok system to the Council's core worlds. It exploded in 6 seconds, shattered by a kinetic rod that dropped from orbit at Mach 30. There was no sound, no fire, just destruction. Next came the power plants. 3 stations on the northern continent lit up the sky as they fell one after another, crumbling like towers of sand. Lights across the planet flickered and then went dark. Factories stopped. Defense fields failed. The people of Zarnok Prime looked up into the sky and saw something they never expected. Terran warships, not painted in Earth's usual blue and white, but in black and silver, with the Valoran spiral glowing across their hulls at 319. The first Terran dropships entered the atmosphere. They didn't move like normal ships. They dropped straight down, using heat shields to smash through clouds and fire down to the surface like falling stars. Some called them iron comets. Zarnak's defense forces rushed to respond. Tanks rolled out. Automated cannons locked onto targets. But they were already too late. The Terrans hit the ground like thunder. Each squad was equipped with advanced reflex armor and AI-linked vision. Their weapons didn't fire bullets, they used energy pulse rounds that cut through armor, like water through paper. But what shocked the Zarnok soldiers the most wasn't Earth's weapons. It was how quiet the humans were. No shouting, no yelling, just fast, perfect execution. A squad of 10 Terrans cleared an entire weapons compound in 93 seconds. Another group took over Zarnek's central control tower without firing a single shot, disabling the guards with shock darts and sleeping gas. By 3:37, over half the planet was under Earth's control. Council officials tried to escape. Shuttles launched from hidden ports, hoping to outrun the chaos. But above them, the TDS Revenant waited. Its long-range weapons tracked every escape attempt. It didn't fire lasers or missiles. It used gravity lances, invisible waves that pulled shuttles apart mid-flight quietly, efficiently. One council leader sent a message during his final minutes. "We didn't expect this. They're not soldiers. They're ghosts." At 3:52, Earth's main strike force arrived at Zarnak's war archives, a huge underground vault where the Council stored battle records, AI data, and communication logs. Inside they found classified orders, proof that the Council had approved the Valoran attack weeks before it happened, signatures, meeting logs, flight paths. It was no longer just revenge. It was justice. Captain Nara of the Terran Special Forces recorded the files and uploaded them to a secure Terran satellite at 3:58. Earth made its first public broadcast since the silence. A short message appeared across Council space. "Zarnok Prime has fallen. We have your proof. You murdered the Valoran. Now we remember everything." There was no voice, only the sound of a Valoran child's laughter playing in the background, taken from an old video shared between Earth and Valora during the friendship. Celebrations years ago, and then the feed went dark. At 4 o'clock, Earth began to withdraw. No cities were taken. No territory was claimed. They didn't stay to rule. They just left. But behind them, they left one thing on every wall, every terminal, every burning building, a painted symbol, the Valoran spiral, and 3 words, "For the fallen." The Council called for emergency meetings, but it was already too late. The galaxy had seen the truth. Earth had not gone mad. Earth had not acted out of rage. It had acted out of memory, and it would not stop, because this was only the first. Strike asterisk, the Valoran's memory, the fires on Prime were still burning when Earth's fleets disappeared into the stars. No one stayed behind. No speeches were made. No monuments were built. And yet, the message left behind was louder than any army. All across the broken streets and scorched buildings, one symbol remained untouched, painted in clean silver. Glowing under the ashes, the Valoran spiral. It had once been a simple mark of friendship too. Lines, one looping over the other in harmony. It represented unity, peace, trust. Now it had become something else entirely. A warning, a grave marker, a promise at 5:12. Terran Standard Time, Earth held a secret gathering on Lunar Station, a base, hidden on the far side of Earth's moon. Only top commanders, scientists, diplomats, and AI minds were allowed to attend. At the center of the chamber stood a small black coffin. Inside was the body of the Valoran child, the one found on their destroyed homeworld, still clutching the human toy in frozen hands. The room was silent as Admiral Selen stepped forward. He didn't read from a paper. He didn't speak in military code. He just looked at the coffin and said, "They asked us to protect them. We didn't arrive in time, but we will not be late again." Around him, Earth's leaders nodded. None of them needed to ask what would happen next, because the Valoran's memory now lived inside every ship, every soldier, every system. They weren't just fighting for justice, they were fighting for remembrance. Back on Earth, something unusual began to happen. Across cities, people began lighting blue lights on their windows and doors. Children placed spirals on their school uniforms. Artists painted murals of humans and Valoran holding hands, looking up at burning stars. No one ordered this, it just happened. The memory of the Valoran had spread like wind through grass, silent, strong, and everywhere. On Mars, Colony Station 3, a teacher paused class to show her students an old video of the Valoran music festivals. The children asked if they could learn those songs. On Europa Base, soldiers renamed their barracks Valoran Point. And on a small farm on Earth, an old man carved the Valoran spiral into the wood above his door. When asked why, he replied, because they lived. At 6:33, the Terran AI network initiated Protocol LYR, named after the Valoran's ancient storykeeper. This protocol allowed every Terran ship, outpost, and terminal to access Valoran culture archives, their music, language, recipes, children's stories, lullabies, and poems. We don't just fight for their justice, Admiral Selen explained in a hidden broadcast. We fight to keep their memory alive. We carry their light forward. Meanwhile, in Council space, fear began to grow. Several Council worlds started receiving coded broadcasts from unknown sources. The messages contained Valoran voices, recorded decades ago, laughing, teaching, singing. Each file ended with the same text. This is who you erased. Many Council citizens had never met a Valoran before. They had only seen official reports, cold data, names in files. But now they saw the truth, and it hurt. Some began questioning their leaders. Others quietly removed their flags. At 7:45, Earth made its next move, not with warships, not with bombs, but with a signal from a deep space satellite near the center of the Orion Belt. Earth broadcast a message across every known frequency. It showed the Valoran homeworld before it was destroyed, forests glowing blue under twin moons, children playing near silver waterfalls, human scientists laughing with Valoran farmers. The message ended with one line: you burned their world. We will light the stars with their memory. The signal spread across pirate networks, cargo ships, even enemy systems. The galaxy now knew this war was no longer just military, it was cultural, emotional, personal. Earth had changed. It didn't just seek victory. It sought meaning. At 8 o'clock, the TDS Revenant arrived at a dead system near the Council's central trade ring. The ship didn't attack. It just stayed in orbit, and from its massive hull, one giant projection lit up the dark sky, the Valoran spiral, floating in space like a ghost. Council leaders tried to jam the signal, but it reappeared again and again. On planets, ships, satellites, personal devices, the memory of the Valoran was no longer gone. It was everywhere. At 8:17, Admiral Selen received a message from a Varnok trader and alien, who had once worked with both humans and Valoran. The message was short. I remember their kindness. Thank you for not forgetting. Selen showed the message to his staff. Then, without a word, he pressed the button that began Phase 2. Because memory is powerful. But now, it was time for action again. Earth would no longer remind the galaxy of who the Valoran were. Earth would now remind them what happens when you destroy peace. Time. The council chambers on Chiron 5 were full of arguments. Ambassadors shouted over each other. Generals slammed fists on glass tables. Screens lit up with new reports every minute. Earth's shadow was spreading and the council was beginning to panic. They didn't just attack Zarnak, shouted Councillor Beltran of the Zari. They erased it. They left nothing behind but symbols and silence. This is an act of madness, hissed a representative from the Orion League. No race responds like this. No species turns memory into a weapon. But others said nothing, because deep down, they understood Earth's silence was not madness, it was purpose. At 9:15, an emergency intelligence report arrived. 3 more council systems had gone dark. No attacks, no battles, just silence. Comms cut off, ships vanished, satellite loops replaying the same words. For the Valoran, we are the storm you lit. And then, nothing. The council's military leaders tried to act strong. They promised retaliation. They ordered fleets to defend major core worlds. They launched patrol ships in every direction. But no enemy came, because Earth didn't strike where it was expected. It struck where it hurt the most: information networks, supply chains, deep space data relays. Earth's cyber warriors turned entire planets into ghosts by corrupting their system cores. Power stations overloaded. COMMs, centers locked down. In some places, even light grids blinked out for hours. One general called it war without soldiers. Another called it death by memory. At 10:04, something even worse happened. Council World Viron 12, a peaceful farming colony, received a message on every public screen. It was not from Earth's military. It was not a threat. It was a story, a Valoran storybook, the tale of a bird who tried to teach the stars how to sing. The kind of bedtime story Valoran parents told their children. The message ended with the words, "The stars remember who they loved and who silenced them." The people of Viron 12 didn't react with anger. They cried. The council had told them Valora resisted peace, but now the truth felt different. At 10:33, protest signs began to appear on council homeworlds. Not against Earth, against the council. We were lied to. Why did we kill the kind ones? Earth remembers, do we? Even some lower-ranking soldiers began to ask questions, and that's when the council truly began to split. Some leaders wanted to make peace fast, open negotiations, offer public apology, surrender war criminals. Others wanted to double down, use full military force, hunt down Terran ships. But both sides were already too late, because Earth didn't wait for permission. At 10:47, Admiral Selin stood aboard the TD's Revenant, now parked in orbit above the barren moon of Kairos 4. His face was calm, his voice steady. He spoke to the fleet commanders through encrypted lines. "We are not fighting a war of weapons. We are fighting a war of memory. Let them fear the stories we leave behind." The operation began. Codename Mirrorfall. Earth's next phase wasn't about killing leaders or bombing planets. It was about showing the galaxy what the Council had tried to bury. Small human teams began appearing on forgotten worlds, places where Valoran trade posts once stood, where music festivals had once echoed through forests. These Terran soldiers didn't bring guns, they brought holograms. They played recordings, songs, stories, speeches, everywhere they went. They painted spirals and whispered the same line. You didn't just erase a people, you erased their songs. The response was stronger than expected. On over 30 council worlds, people started copying the spiral symbol .younglings, wore it on their clothes. Artists carved it into wood and stone. The Valoran once ignored, now forgotten, had become legends, symbols of peace that died screaming. And Earth had made sure the galaxy remembered every scream at 11:23. A final report arrived at the Council's war table. It showed 3 more systems now using Earth's encrypted channels. But the names shocked the Council. These were former allies. The Varnak, the Iltron, even the neutral Lakari, had begun to support Earth in secret. Food, information, shelter. The Council tried to stop the leaks, but they couldn't, because this wasn't just a war anymore. This was a movement, and it was moving faster than anything the Council could control. Councillor Elvaran slammed his hand down. We should have wiped Earth when we had the chance, he growled. Another councillor whispered, You did. You wiped their friends. The room went silent. At 11:59, the TDS Revenant sent a single signal toward the center of Council space. No ships followed, no demands came. Just one message. You will not forget us again, because now we remember you. The fall of the Council world. The sky above Siren 9, capital of the Galactic Council, had always been calm. Bright rings circled the planet like peaceful halos. Diplomats from every known species met in towers of glass and gold. Laws were made there. Wars were avoided there. Siren 9 was known as the center of civil peace. But at 6 o'clock, peace ended. Every sensor on Siren 9 lit up at once. A fleet had entered orbit fast, silent and massive. It was Earth's Black Fleet, 7 dreadnoughts, 22 destroyers, and over 300 automated drones, every ship painted in matte black with silver spirals glowing from their hulls. They made no sound. They sent no request. They just appeared. Panic spread fast through the capital. Council guards activated their planetary shield. Air defense platforms spun to life. Citizens ran to shelters. On the central tower, the Council's leaders stood frozen, staring at the sky. It wasn't just the size of the fleet that scared them. It was that Earth had come without warning. No countdown, no message. Just presence. At 6:14, a single Terran ship broke formation and descended toward the surface. It was small, just a diplomatic-class lander with no weapons. It moved slowly, passing through the outer clouds like it had all the time in the world. The shield didn't stop it, because Earth had already disabled it. The lander touched down near the Council Hall. From inside stepped one personer, human. Tall, dressed in old ceremonial armor. His chest plate carried a nameplate that simply read, For Valora. In his hands, he held no gun. He held a toy, the same stuffed toy found with the Valoran child on their destroyed world. A small, soft star creature, made by human hands, still burnt around the edges. He walked up the grand stairs, past lines of armed guards. No one stopped him when he reached the platform where the Council stood. He didn't speak. He placed the toy at the foot of the Council's golden monument. Then he turned and looked up. The sky was still filled with Earth's ships. He raised his hand, had made a simple gesture, a small circle with 2 fingers across it. The Valoran spiral. Then he said just 3 words, You did this, and walked away. At 6:22, he was gone. At 6:23, the sky broke open. The The TDS Revenant fired first, not at buildings, not at ships, at memory. The orbital broadcast towers, those that spread council stories, edited truths, and controlled history, were the first to go. They shattered like glass. Flames lit the clouds. Next, the central data vaults home to centuries of sealed records and propaganda, gone in seconds. But Earth didn't strike civilian zones. No schools, no homes, no hospitals. Instead, they targeted decision centers, the very rooms where the order to attack Valora had been signed. They knew the coordinates, and they left nothing standing. The Council scrambled fighters, sent distress calls, begged for backup. No one came because no one wanted to stand between Earth and its memory. By 6:40, the battle was over, but Earth didn't stay. One by one, their ships turned and left orbit. The Black Fleet didn't claim victory. It didn't wave flags. It simply left silence behind. A burned monument, a ruined council, a small stuffed toy at the top of empty stairs at 7:05. Every device across the galaxy, from wristbands to starship, comes flickered to life. A final message played. We do not seek your rule. We do not want your power. We are not your empire. But we remember who you killed, and now so will you. The message ended with a soft sound, Valoran lullaby, once thought lost, playing in the background. On dozens of worlds, people wept. Some council members fled their posts, others stepped down in shame, and some stood in the ruins of their offices, realizing that no fleet, no weapon, no speech could stop what Earth had become. Earth had turned memory into a weapon, and memory could not be defeated. At 7:26, Admiral Selin stood aboard the Revenant, watching the council world fade behind him. A young officer beside him spoke quietly. "Sir, will we keep going?" Selin didn't answer right away. Then he said, "No, we've said what we came to say. Now let the stars carry it." Earth had proven its point. It didn't want conquest. It didn't want colonies. It wanted one thing, only truth carved into time, and now that truth floated across the galaxy, shining brighter than war. No apology left. The war was over. But Earth had never called it a war. It was a reminder now. The stars were silent. The Council's fleets were scattered. Their flags had fallen from the highest towers. Their leaders had disappeared behind locked doors or empty promises. The systems that once claimed order and justice now whispered with doubt. The galaxy, for the first time in centuries, was truly quiet. At 8:02, Earth held a private memorial in orbit around a small moon near the ruins. Of Valora the sky there was still dark from the destruction. No trees had grown back. No rivers flowed. But Earth had planted something else. A single beacon, made of polished black stone and silver steel. It stood 12 meters tall and curved like a spiral. A soft blue light circled around its center, pulsing like a slow heartbeat, etched. On its base were words in both human and Valoran script. You burned their songs. We remembered them in fire. Now, let the galaxy carry their names. Around it stood humans, soldiers, engineers, diplomats, farmers, even children. No music played. No speeches were made. They just stood still, remembering. At 8:15, Earth's final transmission began. It was not a threat. It was not a demand. It was a truth. Across every star system, every station, every ship, the message appeared. Admiral. Selen sat before the camera. He wore no medals, no armor, just a simple black uniform with the Valoran spiral on his shoulder. His voice was calm. We did not come to rule. We did not come to conquer. We came because you forgot. You forgot those who trusted you. You forgot those who smiled, offered peace, and opened their hands. You erased them with fire. He paused, eyes steady. So we answered, not with words, but with memory. The screen showed flashes of the war, the Valoran child's toy, the foot of the council tower, Zarnak's sky turning black, the spiral painted across walls, ships, and stars. Soldiers standing still beneath the ruins of valor. Then Selen spoke again. This is not a victory speech. There is no victory when graves are the price. There is no honor in remembering too late. The screen went black dot. Then new images appeared, and recordings of the Valorant. Children learning to write in both languages. Dancers moving through glowing forests. Humans and Valorant planting gardens together. A human boy hugging his Valoran friend goodbye. You call Earth dangerous. You call us violent. But you forget why we rise. One last image appeared. The Valoran spiral glowing in white. We rise when peace is broken. We rise when friends are buried. And when that happens, there is no apology left. Then silence, no music, no signal. Just the spiral, fading gently into the dark, across the galaxy. The message shook civilizations. On neutral planets, people cried. On trade ships, captains played the message again and again. On old Valoran outposts, once buried in sand and forgotten. New hands brushed the dust away and carved the spiral into stone. The council tried to respond, but no one listened. No one trusted them anymore, because Earth had shown the truth. Not just in words, but in action. At 8:49, Earth began to retreat. Its fleets didn't stay. Its soldiers returned to their homes. The Black Fleet moved back into deep orbit and went silent. The Terran Union didn't take systems. It didn't build outposts. It simply left one thing behind, memory. Memory in the shape of stories, in the form of symbols, in the hearts of those who saw the truth with their own eyes. Humanity didn't want more land. It wanted something far more powerful. That the galaxy would never again forget what happened to the Valoran, and never again forget who remembered them. On Earth, the blue lights stayed lit in windows. In classrooms, Valoran stories were added to history books, and in the sky above Mars, a statue was built, Valoran figure holding a human hand, standing beneath the stars. The plaque read, "They gave us peace, we gave them justice." At 9 o'clock, on the last official day of the campaign, Admiral Selen stepped out onto the viewing platform of the TDS Revenant one final time. He looked into the stars and whispered, "Rest now. They know who you were."